Shannon, let's just go ahead and get started. So you are controlling our slide deck tonight. For those of you that have joined us, I am Kara McClanahan, the CEO and founder of Aesthetic Practice Partners, and I am joined by the amazing Shannon Blake, who is the Director of Partnership at Aesthetics at Podium. You all are here because you want strategies to convert those leads. As a consultant in the industry, I've been in the aesthetics industry for 30 years. I've worked in all areas of our community, working in practices, with practices, and on the industry side, selling into practices. And the number one question I get asked, which is why I'm so excited for this conversation tonight, is how do we do better at converting leads? You know, we have to do great once the patients get in our doors, right? But that's all up to us. I always say when it comes to patient acquisition, there's the art of getting patients to the door and the art of getting patients in the door and then getting them back in our ecosystem and staying with our patient, our practice. And there's a lot of things that go into that. We're going to break down the first half of that is how do we make sure that we're getting patients in the door, right? Because we can only control so many factors. And there's a lot of different tools available to us nowadays that wasn't readily available to us previously. But it's funny because even though we have all of these tools now available to us, the number one challenge that many practices have is still lead conversion. And, you know, that there is resources out there and there are ways to make sure that we're capitalizing on our hard spent marketing dollars and getting patients to the door. We need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to get them in the door. So as I said, that's why I'm most excited for this conversation tonight. For those of you that know me and or have heard me speak at any conferences, you know that when I share my industry friends with you, it is because I truly, truly, truly believe in their products, services, treatments, and the same is true for Podium. I love to be able to share the resources. There are so many resources out there, but there's a lot of confusion in the industry marketplace about the resources available to us. And it can be very confusing when you have sales reps or you're at a conference and you have, you know, 30 emails a day sharing all of these new tools and technology and things that could help you grow your practice. And it's really hard sometimes to cut through the fluff and decide who are the right partners for us. You know, are they really going to deliver on their promises? Can they really, really, truly support our practices? And that's why at Aesthetic Practice Partners, it's really important to us to make sure that we help cut through that fluff and bring only the best resources and partners to your practices. So I'm so happy to be partnered with Podium because it is a resource that I believe every single one of my clients should be using, every single aesthetic practice could benefit from. And there's so much within Podium and that Shannon's going to talk to you about tonight that is going to make instant impact to your practice. And it's not just about the technology, it's the strategies. So with or without the technology, the strategies are what we're going to talk about tonight that's going to help you impact the lead conversion in your practice. So I'm excited to get the conversation started. As I said before, Shannon with Podium is here to share with us the strategies that they've learned and have helped develop that make a difference in lead conversion. So Shannon, I'm passing the mic to you. And I'm excited for this conversation. I know every time I hear you speak and every time we collaborate, I learn something new that I get to take back to my industry friends. So take it away, Shannon. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Kara, and very proud and honored to be in your circle. We know how picky you are about who you bring in and are just very grateful that you trust us and have given us this opportunity to come and chat with this community about the importance of lead conversion, what industry expectations or what consumer expectations have really evolved into, and some creative ways that you can improve on those conversion rates, both with AI and without. So let's dive in. Okay, so we're going to start with talking about y'all probably are sitting here thinking we are working very, very hard. We're a good practice, we're good to our patients, we create really good experiences, but some of you might be also feeling like revenue's not what it used to be, revenue's down, what is happening? Because there's a lot of really good practices that were thriving, and now overall, I do have the pleasure of going to a lot of conferences in the role that I'm in at Podium, and I have a lot of conversations, and the trends are consistent. Overall, revenue is down. For those of you that it's up, that's amazing. You're an anomaly, but overall revenue is down. And it really, there's a lot of things that play into that. We won't go into every single one of those reasons, but one constant that comes up is we are not getting back to the leads fast enough in the time that we are in right now in this industry. You all have heard it. This industry grew really fast. It's very saturated. That is playing a part in it, but also consumer expectations are just getting really, really high. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this. Before we actually move forward, I wanted to ask y'all a question, and I am going to put you to work. So get your chat up here. I want y'all to share with us how much, if you're comfortable, how much are you currently spending on marketing each month to generate new leads? Because we all know in this industry, ad spend plays a major role in getting new leads into your practice. So just take a second, put in the chat. Kara, I'd also love to hear from you when you're working with your clients. It would be interesting to hear what you recommend they're spending. What's like a good range, would you say?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting thing. So I do think it depends on like practice size, right? And a lot of different dynamics. For cosmetic and med spa practices, I generally recommend not a dollar amount, but a percentage of gross revenue to allocate marketing that falls somewhere between, say, 7 and 12%. But there's context there, and ranges are important. So for our practices, I see a lot of answers, and I don't know if you can see that, Shannon. So definitely take a look at that while I circle back and talk about that context, because I think the context is super important. So
Yeah.
while I do typically recommend a range of dollar, a percentage of gross revenue, remember that startups and aggressive growth practices, like you're in aggressive growth mode or scale mode, they typically are on the higher end of the spend. So sometimes even close to up to 15% to build brand awareness, fill schedules, like compete locally. And so established practices are probably somewhere when they have a strong established clinic with a strong client base, might spend more to like 5 to 8% of gross revenue. That's where we see them kind of benefiting most from like word of mouth and repeat business. So you can spend less on paid marketing dollars if you're established, as well as you really have a great grassroots marketing campaign, word of mouth, and that repeat business. I would say the industry consensus, and this actually comes from AMSPA and other industry experts, recommend typically 7 to 10% as a healthy range of baseline for ongoing marketing investment. And that includes like digital, like your Google ads, social media, email, traditional, which could be your print, events, referral. Remember, that's all part of marketing. So when I'm talking about percentages of gross revenue and how you allocate that, everything that's considered a marketing expense goes into that. So the key factors that really influence the recommended spend are, what is the local competition intensity? Like sometimes, even if you're established, that doesn't mean you should drop it down to 5% if you're in a very, very highly competitive market. And obviously your practice's growth goals and the maturity of your brand and your client base. Remember, like the cost of acquiring a new patient is exponentially higher. But when you're aiming for steady growth, and budgeting a percentage of your gross revenue is the easiest and the most reliable way to determine how you spend your marketing dollars. So you're seeing these buckets in dollar amounts here, and Shannon's going to talk about that. The buckets should be representative of like percentage of gross revenue. And so everyone's revenue plays a part into that, but that also makes sure that you're spending dollars wisely compared to, like, I have a lot of practices that are out there spending a ton of money, and it's much higher in those gross, they can't afford it. They're spending more money on marketing than they're spending on other things smartly and wisely in their practice. So that's a very long answer to your question, but it's important to understand the context when you're thinking about how you use marketing dollars. And the answers have been roughly around B with a couple C's in your poll here.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up it isn't necessarily a flat fee. You should be thinking about the percentage of revenue. So I love that you brought that up, Kara. We wanted a number to be in folks' minds because we're gonna come back to this for a little bit of math in a little bit. So Yeah, I was seeing the same thing, around 5 to 10K a month. So a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money being spent. So you want to make sure that you're not just throwing that down, throwing that in the trash, right? You want to make sure that you are converting as many of those leads that are coming your way to justify the spend. Let's move, we'll come back to that. So this gives you like a general idea of best practice of like what's happening and what the ROI is that you should see. And again, I'm going to ask Kara to share because I respect her tremendously from a consultant perspective. So this is more from Podium's perspective, but I would love to give her a second to speak to this as well. But the average practice is investing about 7 to 10% revenue of marketing. So that's near the range we were just chatting about. And you should be seeing anywhere between 3 and 5x ROI. So for every $1 spent marketing, it's very simple. You should be generating $3 to $5. We're using very small math because it's easy, but you guys get the idea. So a 3 to 5x ROI is considered like that's good. But Kara, do you have higher standards than this, or does this kind of align with what you're recommending when you're working with your clients?
Yeah. So I have higher standards in everything that I want my clients doing. Now, I would say that like a 4 to 1, a 4x is like a common baseline. And if you're hitting this, you're doing well. Your marketing is productive and it's producing profitable growth. Now, I will say my clients, I'm typically recommending a 5 to 9. Most of my higher performing practices are actually getting 6 to 10x on their marketing dollars. This is considered excellent, especially in the med spa and cosmetic world. It means that your campaigns and your systems, so not just your marketing campaigns, not just your agency, not just your paid ads, not just your meta, contributions and all of those things that go to fund all the things Instagram and Facebook, right? But it means that you have systems that are highly efficient. So my practices that are getting that 5 and 6x, but most commonly my practices that are getting that 6 to 10x have highly efficient systems and they're working. That means you're not only attracting quality leads, but your team and your processes are converting them at a good rate. If your marketing ROI is 3 or below, your marketing's underperforming. You probably have strategy or messaging or channel issues, and or internal processes and systems. So also the ROI is always going to be different with newer practices and established practices. So again, where you fall is really highly dependent on not only what you're using and the marketing campaigns, but is most impacted by the efficiency of your staff and your systems that you have within the practice.
Love that. Yeah, systems and processes in place are going to be critical because if you're just winging it every time one comes in, we're going to talk about fragmentation of like where your leads are going and how that gets in the way. But you nailed it on that. And the fact that your clients are seeing 6 up to 12 ROI is why people hire consultants. They've got a higher level of expertise in all of this. So love that. Okay, so you are investing thousands into marketing. You're great providers. Everyone feels like they're doing the best they can. They're making everyone who's coming in the door feel like family. They're special. You seem to be doing everything right, but like what is missing if why aren't you converting more of these leads? So I'm going to ask y'all one more question before we like really get into the meat of this. If you had to guess, where do you lose the most potential patients? I want you to pick A, B, C, or D. So A is marketing not driving enough inquiries. I know that I saw a comment about somebody who hasn't yet dipped into like paid marketing. I know that there's a lot of different types of marketing, so paid marketing. B, leads not being followed up quickly enough. Leads followed up but never booked. So maybe somebody followed up and is engaging with the lead, but they never followed it through to get them to a booked consult, and it's just a lead that slipped through the cracks. Or D, no-shows or cancellations. So take a second. I'm going to give everyone a chance to put in the responses there. Kara, while people are filling this out, what would you say you hear most commonly? Like, what's the biggest contributor if they had to pick one?
Oh, so I would say number one is probably low response time. We have to remember that again, we are in an instant gratification society. Patients or shopping product services are rarely loyal from the start. I hate to say it, right? Until they get in the door and you wow them and you give them that experience. Most cosmetic patients are not extremely loyal. So, you're looking for they're looking for, of course, price is always a factor, a lot of different things. But remember, instant gratification society. And so if it takes you more than a few minutes or even hours to respond to inquiries, these are often there. People expect in the replies, especially for high ticket elective services. And if you think about it, and if you analyzed your actual leads, I would say a majority of them are coming in after hours and over the weekend, because that's when people have time to look into things and they have time to shop. And so I think that is the biggest contributor, is that again, those instant lead reactions. I'd say second to that is poor follow-up. Third is probably weak front desk or call handling. And the fourth is probably like the experience or value proposition is missing.
Oh, I love that you bring up the front desk. Sometimes those are, those can be entry-level positions that maybe aren't higher paid. And so it's so tough to get their buy-in to work those leads as urgently as you as the business owner. So that's such a good one, Karen. It doesn't surprise me you hear that. That's a whole other webinar and conversation.
Right.
Okay, we got totally mixed reviews, some C's, some B's. We got one D, and then the individual that's not doing any paid marketing right now. So okay, so the silent conversion killer, I think you guys know at this point that really the meat of what we want to talk about today is client expectations, consumer expectations these days, and slow responses are going to be the biggest conversion killer you're going to have. So we're just going to dive into first the cost of it, because I think it's important for you guys to like put pen to paper and understand the math and the revenue that's being lost when you're not responding fast enough. And then we'll get into some solutions that can help you crack the code on speed to lead once and for all. So this is just an interesting stat I always like to share. People don't realize in this world that Kara said of instant gratification, 78% of consumers choose the business that responds to them first. We are all very busy. If something's on our mind and we want to get something booked, it's just who's gonna engage with me the quickest, make it easy for me to get an appointment booked so I can go on to the next list of 100 things that I have to do for my day. So we really can't underestimate the importance of being fast. One more question, I promise. I think this is the last question I'm going to ask you guys, and we're going to use all of this information throughout the rest of this webinar. But how fast on average are you responding to new leads? Like, do you put in here A, B, C, D, or E? And you can be honest. If you really don't have a way to track your response times, E is totally fair. You're not alone. We hear that quite often. But I'm just curious for those that are here, how good are you? And I think this is, yeah, during business hours, because after hours, we're going to talk about that. That's a totally different world and expectation and reality that we're in. So give everyone just a moment. Kara, would you say with your clients, I'm going to guess that you push within 5 minutes. You're probably really on top of like coaching them on excellence.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we do everything we can to make sure that whoever is responsible for answering those leads has the autonomy and the ability to do that. So like I literally just had this conversation with a client earlier today, and they're like, I know we get that and we want to do that, but what happens when I'm doing ABC? And I'm like, if it's not already client facing, if they're not physically on the phone or in front of a client, whoever is responsible for answering leads, when leads come in, that is their priority. That is stop and do that, because anything else can wait. You're losing money if you don't get to those clients right away.
100%. Both are so important. I think about like when you've got somebody checking in or checking out, that is like gold. That is critical time for you to bond personally, professionally, talk about memberships, make sure they're getting rescheduled. What's the skincare line that you just brought in? What's the new device you guys are bringing in? Like that is literal gold. They should not, anyone who is having that conversation should not be interrupted by some lead coming in, but yet you're expected to respond really quickly. So like, how can you do both? And we're going to cover that today because it's not, the answer isn't one or the other, which one's more important. It's literally both. And how is that physically possible? So, Nicole, within 5 minutes. Yes, girl, so good. I'm going to guess you have systems in place to be able to track that. I will challenge all of you. Everyone thinks they know, and they generally think they're doing better than they are. So if you haven't gone and like actually tested it, maybe even secret shopped. We've been really on this secret shopper thing lately, secret shopping hundreds of aesthetic practices. And I think we actually share some of the averages that we're seeing in this deck, but it's not within 5 minutes, I'll tell you that much. And I always wonder if we were to pull one of those practices, if they would say we're under 5 minutes, but the reality is it's actually really, really hard to do
Yeah.
unless you have the right systems in place to do that. Okay, thanks everyone for answering that. Oh my gosh, we're gonna skip that because I'm over asking you guys questions. We need to get deeper into the content here. That was asking about how fast you are after hours, which I think I know it's not gonna be under 5 minutes. Okay, this I always like to share as well. So this is quite interesting. This is the importance of speed delete, y'all. If you're taking longer than 5 minutes to get back to that inquiry, you've got an 80% drop off in the odds of that person engaging with you. That's wild. Like that's how short, like we are literally so distracted all the time. You've got 5 minutes, and that's even at Podium, we actually encourage 2 minutes or less. Because even that,
Mhm.
if you like ask somebody something and you have to wait 2 minutes, that feels like an hour. So I like to show this graph because it's wild to see how big of an impact we're talking about when it's not 5 minutes or less. Here are the averages. These are industry averages from thousands of from folks in this industry that we've surveyed. It is 90 minutes on average during business hours. That's just you're doing okay. That's like what the expectation, just the basic industry expectation, and then not expectation, sorry, average, and 8 hours for after hours, which makes complete sense. Like y'all work your asses off. And so to ask you to also be working 24/7 and getting back to every lead within 5 minutes, like when are you supposed to reset, recharge, spend time with the family, take care of the kids, you got your pets, all the social stuff. Like it's just 8 hours is just, I mean, that's what's happening given how busy we all are, right? So if you don't have systems in place, it's taking about 8 hours. But we're going to talk about how you can literally be at 2 minutes or less 24/7.
And I want to just jump in there for 2 seconds because
Yeah.
there is another consideration to that. Not only is it one, you're losing that valuable time, but a lot of practices that I see are trying to bridge that gap on their own by asking their coordinators or the doctors doing responses on their cell phones or providers. And one, that's an HR nightmare if you're asking your employees to take cell phones home. That's personal data. There's all kinds of HIPAA, HR compliance issues. But interestingly enough, my practices that are like, oh, well, the doctor will just jump in, or one of the providers or somebody is, are you giving the patients the experience that you want them to have? And are you truly converting those leads if you're giving them rushed experience or inaccurate information? So think about that is like, there's more problems than just like, we have to answer our phones all night long and we don't have time to like have dinner with our families. There's actual business implications that people don't even think about.
That's such a good point, Kara. I even think about us at Podium, like we used to tout that we've got this incredible mobile app that the practices can access leads that are coming in the middle of the night while they're taking a bath. They've got this mobile app on the go and you can get back to leads so easily. You don't have to be in front of your desktop or at work with your laptop out. You can just do it on the go. And we quickly realized like that is encouraging non-work life balance, and that's very stressful and that is just not sustainable. So that's why we built the tools we did, which we will talk about, I keep alluding to help give you support at those hours so that you don't have to use the mobile app at 9 o'clock at night. And Kara actually brought this up earlier, but I want to double down on this because it's a big percentage. If you guys don't realize this, 40% of your website traffic is happening after you're closed. And that makes sense. Think about who your customer profile is. They are busy. A lot of cases, they're working moms, right? Like if they're not, they've got the 9 to 5 is out. Like that's not when they have dedicated time. That is when the world is awake and there are things pulling at their leg in every which direction. So this time is when you need to have fast responses more than ever. This is like gold hours from the time you close to when you open. So I know this picture will resonate with y'all because that's probably when you get you time to actually explore treatments that you might be interested in, better understand them. You get excited about things. It's late at night. Like this is what I do. This really resonates with me. So hopefully it resonates with you. But That after hours time is something that we absolutely need to solve, and that will tremendously help your conversion rates. So we're going to talk some math here for a second. So we've got a pretty simple scenario here. And I actually think this is conservative, but we're going to call it Podium Med Spa. So creative. Is getting 100 new leads a month for simple math. And the average patient spend is $500. Now that's like a one-time visit average patient spend, not to mention the revenue that comes from being really good at re-engaging. They come back in, they do other treatments, you put them on a treatment plan, right? We're just keeping simple math to they come to you one time, average patient spend. You've got industry average response times, 90 minutes. We talked about that. The conversion rate, we're giving 25%. That feels realistic. So if you take 100 leads times the 25% conversion is 25 patients times $500 per spend. We're talking 12,500 a month, 150 grand a year for this scenario here. Then if you come over and you look at, okay, well, what if I could get to the gold standard of response times within 5 minutes? And this is also, I think, being very conservative. Let's say you can just get your conversion rate to 25% up to 35%. That's a 40% improvement in just conversion rate. And the difference when I'm not going to read out all this math, but now it's 210,000 a year in revenue with those response times and those conversion rates. So the difference between the two and just bringing your response time from 90 minutes down to 5 minutes is $60,000. So just like sit with that for a minute. That is not even the reoccurring revenue that can come from each of these leads. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So it's not something to balk at, just simply thinking about response times and conversion rates and what faster response times can do for your conversion and how much revenue that could be bringing in. So I just like to map this out so that it really, really cements in the impact. Okay, why is it so hard to respond to every lead in under 5 minutes, 2 minutes? This is the first big issue. You guys probably feel this. Because we're in aesthetics, there are leads coming in everywhere, and now layer on social. Social is such a big part of this industry for a very good reason, but it complicates things. You have Facebook DMs, you have Instagram DMs coming in, you've got Facebook ads, Instagram ads, you've got phone calls, you've got text, you have your old contact us forms on your website, you've got your chat bot that sits on your website. It's a lot. And in a lot of cases, these leads are going to different places. Maybe some are in your EMR, maybe some are in your phone solution, maybe some are filling out a form and that's going into some info at email address that's also flooded with a bunch of other shit that makes it really difficult to sift through and get back to the gold, the leads, the fresh new leads. It's so fragmented. So that's the first thing. It's so important to get a system and a solution in place that brings everything into one place. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I won't spend a lot of time on this. Kara nailed this. These brands have turned us all into instant gratification, high maintenance assholes who want something and they want it now. They have created the client expectations, love it or hate it. We live in this world and your patients live in this world. And you have to operate your business being this convenient. Everything has to be easy and convenient and modern and new. And so I want you to think about like even beyond your conversion rate and your speed to lead, I want you to think about, is my medical spa easy to pay, easy to get financing options, easy to like access my treatment plan, know where I'm at with my treatment plan? Like think about your entire business and every single touch point in your patient journey. Do you offer an Uber experience, an Amazon experience, a Lyft experience? Really think about that because that's a whole different like team activity to walk through and like really challenge. But the point is your patients expect their medical spa, their aesthetic practice to be as easy to work with as these brands. That means instant answers, that means convenience, and that means 24/7 availability. So process changes that lead to big conversion, unified inbox. We talked about SMS first strategy. I'll talk about that more in a second. And then utilizing automations and AI. So the unified inbox I mentioned, is your phone system integrated with your texting solution? Are your social media DMs integrated into that same inbox where all your phone calls come into and your text messages? Like, I want you to visually think of a literal like text thread of one of your friends. And imagine if you had a system where you could scroll up and see your calls. You could see a text marketing message you send out about a promotion. You could see if they replied to that. Did they take advantage of the offer? You can see if they social DM'd you. It's all in one place. That right there already makes your life easy. It makes everything seamless where you have every point of communication, whether it's just chatting back and forth or a new lead that's coming in from an ad, it's all in one place. So that's the first thing you need to do. If you don't have a system in place that does that, you should be looking around. Obviously, Podium offers that, but do your research, do your homework. There are solutions out there that can be that for you. SMS first strategy, phone tag, you guys. I know some people are still phone callers, but you are going to get to, let's just take booking an appointment, for example. Playing phone tag to figure out the best date and time is such a time waster for your team. You've got to think about text. And I think by this point, everyone knows like text is the preferred form of communication. So like if you don't have a good like two-way textable number, that's the same as your business number, that's the same as your phone number, like you've got to get that part figured out too. But having an SMS first strategy, even with text, even with marketing, I know that many of you probably do email marketing, and I'm not telling you to stop doing email marketing. It's cheap. Some people open it, but the open rates are not good enough. You've got to also be having a text marketing strategy, and that needs to be coming from your business phone number, not from a 5-digit code that we all know we get and we just delete it because it's so impersonal. You don't know who it is, and it's just a promotional message. You've got to have a good text marketing solution that's coming from, that's two-way too. It's not just pushing out promotions. People can engage and ask questions and book appointments from it. And then utilize automations. This is where it starts to get fun. And you guys know, like Kara, I would actually love to hear you share as well any automations that your clients set up where you feel like it works really well. But where Podium starts to get really excited is when you can use AI in a very meaningful way, like AI employees who are very conversational and human-like. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But that's the type of way that we think AI can truly solve speed to lead for y'all. And we'll talk about that. But Kara, are there any like automations that you encourage your clients?
Absolutely. So just think about from like your lead follow-up or even like your consult follow-ups, or even existing patients that have been in your pipeline and we're like, hey, where did Becky go? She used to come all the time. So drip campaigns, automated drip campaigns. If you have a system that you can have segmented messaging going out to leads, going out to existing patients, Kara, it's been 6 months since you had your last neurotoxin appointment. I can see your wrinkles. Right? Those are the things like you don't want to say you can see your wrinkles, but I can see them when it's been 6 months and I know it's time to come in. But sometimes I don't remember until I get that text message that says, hey, it's been 6 months since you've been in. Right? Whatever it is, personalizing with AI right now. So drip campaigns is the best way that we can use AI. And again, you can set up all of those campaigns. There are ways to do that. That's not AI, but don't do it. It takes too much time. Utilize resources. And templated messaging and consistent messaging and patient experience, your workflows. Like there are so many different ways to use AI in our practices, but I would say the best ways, especially when we talk about things like conversion rates, is messaging, drip campaigns, and like the follow-up touch points.
I love that you brought up drip campaigns. Y'all, these are, if you have a good system, literally you can move a lead into a nurture status and then comes the magic. You've predetermined what do you want text 1 to say? What do you want text 2 to say? What do you want text 3 to say? They can all be customized. You can say, I want text 1 to go out in 48 hours. I want text 2 to go out in 72. Whatever it is, you create the experience. And then if somebody replies, boom, it cancels. You've now got them engaging again. And then in comes your patient care coordinator or your front office, whoever it is that's engaging. But in no world can a human remember to follow up with somebody who stops messaging you. That is nearly impossible. So drip campaigns, absolutely. I will tease a little bit. AI has changed the game, y'all, with follow-up. There's some really cool stuff coming in January that we're calling AI revenue mining, but it's going to get really interesting where they can just read conversations and know, oh,
Mhm.
this person was interested in this treatment, but this conversation went cold. We should re-engage. AI, very personable, conversational, just starts messaging that person, picks it right up where it left off. Nobody will have to do anything. It'll honestly, in my opinion, even take over drip campaigns. It's just going to be smarter and be very human-like and intuitive and knowing how to approach that conversation and just look for cancellations, somebody that never rebooked. Nobody's going to have to do anything.
Mhm.
AI is just going to recognize that and come in and start conversation again. It's going to get really interesting in 2026. The literally OpenAI coming out changed the game with AI, and there's some really cool stuff in the works. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, let's talk. Our lovely faces are covering the slides. Let me move that. The benefits of using an AI employee. So I alluded to this. We've got an AI employee that we built off the backs of OpenAI. Her name is Avery, if you guys have not heard of her. But these are some of the capabilities that AI employees have today. Not all AI employees are created equal. Please do your homework. If you are demoing an AI employee, ask them to like, is there an environment where I can have a full-on conversation with your AI employee? Try to break it, try to challenge it, pay attention to how human-like it is, intuitive. Also, be asking things like, how do I train my AI employee? How much access do I have to tweaking the personality or the way she's responding? Because if you don't have full control of that, it's going to get really complicated really fast, and you're going to just end up turning it off because you're stressing out that you haven't heard from the customer service rep from the company to get back to you to make sure they've made the adjustments. So anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But the benefits of having one are obvious, but let's talk about a couple of them. 24/7 coverage, boom, solves your 8-hour response time after hours when you've got 40% of your traffic looking and interested in your treatments. Faster response times, higher conversion. We talked about that in the beginning. Frees up your front desk to focus on the patient who's in front of them, building that relationship. That time is gold. We talked about that. Decreasing staffing costs. By no means am I sitting here saying you won't need a front desk anymore because you've got an AI employee. Absolutely not. This is not a replacement of humans. This is an assistant to humans. So let the AI employee take on the more mundane, just stuff that gets asked all the time, and let your front desk staff and other staff members capitalize on that in-person human time.
Although I will say, Shannon, that I do get asked all the time, should I answer, should I hire a phone coordinator? Do I need someone just to answer leads? And I would say that when my practices that use a human have someone just to answer leads, they're not doing any more than what we see Avery doing. And that conversation, like, yes, it can be punted up, if you will, to a human and have that conversation. But if you're hiring someone to just answer leads, I guarantee you that someone ends up doing a lot more than just answering leads. They're not just answering leads. Down the road, you're going to have her backing up the front desk and rooming patients and running supplies, right? They're not just answering leads. And my practices that do have that are high volume enough to having employees just answer leads, they're doing exactly this. It is almost 90% digital.
Well, and what's funny about this, Kara, is I cannot tell y'all how many times one of our clients has said, Avery trains my front desk on how to talk, like professionally. And
Right.
Avery does it the way I want it because I trained her. And we even came out with Avery V2 just a few weeks ago. And it's cool because if she says something that you're like, I want her to actually only ask for date of birth and for this information if it's surgery related. I don't want you asking for that if it's just a Botox or whatever. And you literally give it that feedback and she'll never make the same mistake again. Imagine if you just have to train someone on something once and they will not make the same mistake again. So in a lot of cases, honestly, the AI employee is more professional, more accurate, more consistent than even the front desk employees that these practices have, which I thought was very interesting. All right, so just sharing you a bit about the impact that Avery can have. So overall for us, so we have thousands of clients that are on Avery that have hired Avery. You don't actually have to have Avery if you're using Podium, but she's an add-on product and our fastest growing product. 40% increase in total conversions. That is mostly because she's fast. She's on it. She's having a conversation. She's answering the questions. She's sending the booking links right then when people are interested and want to take action. 71% improved response times, 28% of all messages handled by AI. We actually tell our practices, if you've got front desk and nobody's checking out, nobody's checking in, and they're just available to engage, amazing. You should have them handling that. But for the times that they can't, whether they're checking someone in or out or after hours, that's really when the AI employee is going to come in clutch. So imagine a world where a lead fills out a contact form on your website after hours. I'm going to walk you through a real life experience. It gets assigned to Avery automatically or your AI employee. Avery texts the lead within 2 minutes every time, no exception. And the lead asks their questions and shares their concerns. And you can see they're having very human-like conversations. These aren't short, robotic answers. We also hear all the time that people will call in and ask for Avery. A lot of our clients change her name to what they want because that's obviously customizable, but they have to be honest and say like, oh, that's so funny. That's actually our AI employee. And it's always a good laugh. But she even gets Google reviews on how good their customer service is because she really
Love
is
that.
so human-like. But able to just answer questions, address any concerns they have. People are worried about pain. How painful is this treatment? Avery's fully equipped to talk about the pain tolerance and make them feel comfortable and not dumb for being worried about pain, like truly human-like. Thoughtfully and completely and brings up packages, provides a booking link. Y'all, she can know your membership packages and promote those for you. She knows if you have a new member discount. She knows your cancellation fee. She knows about your Instagram ad you have running because you have trained her on what questions are going to come in about it. So she can handle all of that. It's truly just a 24/7, 365-day assistant. And then the lead schedules their appointment and is interested in a package. I was actually on a webinar the other day with one of our clients who has Avery. They call her Eva. And we were talking about an AI employee on the webinar. And she has her phone next to her. And while we're having this webinar, normally she'd be on top of the leads. She gets this inquiry that that came in, and she was kind of watching it off the side of her eye. And Avery, it was a hair restoration lead. So those are very high ticket, answering questions about the procedure, what's the turner, like what's the downtime, what's the pain level. Before we were off the webinar, she had a consult for a hair restoration. Like it literally can take so much off your plate. You just supply her with your booking link, whatever system you're using for booking, and she can book appointments for you too when the conversation gets to that point. And it's gotten really cool because some practices want a really aggressive Avery, like we want that appointment. So she should be going in and asking for that appointment consistently. And some want to be more consultative and inquisitive and build a little bit more rapport before going in for the consult. And so it's just really cool how you can customize the personality type. And this is even just for us. We have a consultative Avery, that's her name. And that's even as of the last couple weeks. So it's just been really cool to see how much, based on client feedback, how much they want us to tweak and offer so that you can really have your perfect AI employee, because it's not one size fits all. Y'all have different vibes and brands and how you want your clients spoken to. And so you've got to be able to customize her to match so she feels like part of your team. And booking happening within 30 minutes of when they came in. So that's just like full end to end. You don't have to do anything. All you've had to do is like train your employee up front and equip her or him with the information they need to handle those leads. So I know I wanted to leave time for Q&A, so we'll go through this pretty fast, but just to recap, responding in 5 minutes, and according to us, 2 minutes. I'm going to challenge you guys. Like 5 minutes is still kind of a long time, but that'd still be above industry average, which is 90 minutes. Gives you an 8x better chance at converting that lead. Simplifying the funnel, do not exist with fragmentation of leads anymore. You don't have to. There are solutions out there where you can consolidate every single client communication, every lead into one place. And that includes like marketing spend ad leads, that includes phones, texts, social media DMs. It can all be in one place, making it easier for y'all. Whether you have an AI employee or not, that's going to make it easier for your team. And then automate smartly. We talk about drip campaigns using AI. We didn't talk about this. What's really cool about an AI employee is if the conversation goes cold, she knows to follow up. You tell her, I want you to follow up if they stop responding within 24 hours. That's her cue to just, hey, Greg, just checking back in. Did you have any other questions about X treatment? It's like clockwork. So having an AI assistant that can also just follow up with leads that have gone cold for you around the clock. And then again, AI employee. It's the future, y'all. Like literally, AI is not a fad. It is not going away. I want you to really think about what you can do in your practice that won't hurt or damage that human relationship that this industry is so good at. That, in my opinion, is why they are disrupting healthcare as we speak. You guys have figured out how to make people feel like family and feel special and feel beautiful. And we don't want to disrupt that in tech. That is not what we're going for. What can you turn over to an AI employee, and what should you be able to focus more on that only a human can do? That's the message.
I love that.
All right, and a massive thank you from Kara and I for spending your evening with us. We know y'all have so many other things you can be doing. We hope you took something away from this. We are going to open it up for Q&A, but I added a QR code because that's my cell phone actually. It'll start a text message with me, literally. If you have any questions, not even about Podium, if you just want to talk about AI, pick my brain on, I like live, eat, and breathe AI because we are spending so much money focused on building AI tools. I just geek out talking about it. If you want to talk about like AI charting, literally anything, text me. I'd love to hop on a call. I just love talking with folks in the industry and understanding where the gaps are, what they need help with from a tech perspective, or anything. So text me if you want to chat, or if you want to see a demo of Podium, happy to. And then we also wanted to include Kara's information up here as well. Kara, I'll let you speak to
Yeah, yeah. You know, like I was saying when we first started, this is like the number one question I get asked is like, how do we do better, right? We have to do better at every single touch point of the patient's journey. And I think that that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for all of the practices is that we really, really need to analyze our processes, systems, how we do things within the practice, because quite honestly, we're light years ahead of where we used to track leads on spreadsheets, y'all. Like I literally have spreadsheets that I created in 2015, and that's how practices are still following up on leads today. And that shouldn't be necessary in 2025. So when we look at, wow, lead volume is low and patients are being more discriminatory of how they spend their money. The industry is down in some areas. I will say I look at finances all day long and I have practices that really aren't down. So the industry is not down. When we look at the manufacturer's spend or the spend with our manufacturers, the money is still being spent. People are still doing these treatments, but guess what? They're diversifying where they're going. There's more options. So practices have less market share. And unless you're really doing everything right at every single touch point, you're in a competition to not only get your patients, but keep your patients. So I would say we talked about lead conversion. Shannon, you brought up at the beginning that it's really good to like map out your patient journey and find where you can use systems, tools, processes, and all the things to really, really focus on, again, that patient experience. And so I would say, look at that, look at your patient experience. Everyone have an opportunity to connect with both of us. I know Shannon shared the information, but if you have any additional questions, if there was something that you were hoping to gain and talk about on lead conversion or systematizing things to get patients in the door, please let us know. Use the chat feature. We can also unmute your mics. We're happy to have some Q&A as well. So if anybody has any questions, we'd love to answer them here.
Oh, Cheryl, I'm so glad you got to meet Alec. He's wonderful.
All right, we're going to give you another couple minutes to ask any questions that you might have. And we will be sharing this back. And again, hopefully, if anyone didn't get a question answered and you just don't want to use the chat feature, feel free to connect with Shannon or myself, and we'll make sure that we get all of your questions answered. And again, whether it's Podium, which of course I love, I'm so happy to be partnered with also, but look at your resources. There are so many different resources out there, and it's not just with tech, but look at the resources that you have to leverage AI, to leverage systemizing things within your practice across the board. And again, like this is a great resource. It pairs well with your EMR and everything else. Like you need to look at everything. Everything has to work together. And so that's the important thing, is looking at the systems within your practice to ensure the patient journey. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Cheryl.
Thanks, Jack. Glad you were able to join us.
No questions. You're
Right.
making this
No
easy for
questions,
us, Tara.
because you were so good. All right. Okay, y'all. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us. And please reach out if you have any additional questions. Have a good evening.
Bye, y'all.